Welcome to MBL Global's Making Better Living series. In these interviews, you'll hear from senior professionals in both the insurance and mental health fields about the importance of early intervention in preventing severe mental health issues and the emerging field of psychological rehabilitation as an integral part of an insurance product offering. We'll discuss the corporate social responsibility, brand, claims and sales issues involved when insurance products are enhanced to rehabilitate people, not just buildings and balance sheets.
Founded in 2020, Inigo Insurance is a new insurer operating in the Lloyd's of London market via its managed syndicate 1301, underwriting a number of specialty lines. Interestingly, it's named after the 17th century architect Inigo Jones. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Sandy Warne, who is busy undertaking her own building project in developing and creating the terrorism and political violence team within the business. Sandy, good afternoon, thank you and welcome. It's great to have you with us today.
Thank you, Graham. I'm delighted to be here, so many thanks for the opportunity to have a chat.
That's great. Sandy, as you mentioned in the introduction, Inigo is a relatively new market entrant into London markets. How would you describe the Inigo business, its DNA and perhaps its differentiator?
It's a great question, Graham. As you touched on, named after Jones, we want to build something pretty amazing from nothing. So it's been an incredible opportunity. It was a no-brainer to join when I was asked and approached. And it's just a really exciting place to work right now. The market conditions were ripe for a new startup. We've become a very focused company in terms of what we're looking to do. And we wanted to build something amazing from nothing, as we said, and along the way, the big part of the cultural piece was let's have some fun doing it. So a great opportunity to come in with a blank piece of paper and a clean sheet, have that support from management from top down, and to build a really special business. So it was a fantastic opportunity and one I bit their hand off at.
No, it's great. I mean, Richard's built he's drawn in a number of very experienced underwriters and some big names across the global insurance market into the Inigo business. How's that worked? How has everybody gelled well together? I must imagine there are some with those types of big names in the business. Everybody's used to perhaps running their own ship, or perhaps with their own challenges and so on. Is everybody gelled well together?
Well, you'd think that might be the case, but one of the sort of the starting points for Inigo was to build a business where you could have some fun, but there was no ego. Egos are parked. And the funny thing about that statement is there are just no egos, full stop. They're not being parked or left outside. I sort of see it as a bit of an all-star insurance celebrity lineup. And every time there was a new name announced that was joining us, it was a real sort of, wow, how have we got them? How lucky are we? So from my personal perspective, I'm getting incredible exposure to incredible business leaders. And across all ages as well. And I think that's something really important. Inigo sort of made a commitment of pushing on that next generation. So at one end of the spectrum, we've got incredible experience, as you said, phenomenal names who've led large multinational companies. And then there's been that absolute sort of desire to get the next generation in, and people from different walks of life, not just insurance names. So we've got pretty solid DNA, if you ask me. I'm obviously slightly biased, but I think the real importance was to have no ego and to have some fun, and that's what our sort of culture is.
So the culture's sort of sorted from the inside. How do you think the market is viewing Inigo? How do your peers view Inigo, do you think? And perhaps more importantly for Inigo, how does the broker market view it?
I think where we're very fortunate is, as you touched on, when you bring in sort of well-known market names, you get a level of automatic buy-in from the broking community. Whilst we're a new startup, we're bringing collectively, multiple numbers of years experience across all classes. We've tried to build teams with absolute market leaders, so well-known names, as you alluded to. And as a result of that, people know our styles, our appetites, our relationships. And it makes it much easier from a standing start to go and try and bring business in. We've been very well received by the market. That's what they tell us. You'd like to think they'd tell us if we were doing something wrong. But certainly on the terrorism side, for example, is we're here to help. We're not here to undercut. We're not here to leave money on the table. It's about adding something different and being something different and doing things differently. So there's a commitment internally about product innovation. How can we make better decisions, have that transparent culture, but obviously we want to be best in class. We want to embrace the risks out there and succeed in doing so. So from my perspective, the feedback we've been had is that it's great to have the new capacity in there, and that ultimately we're here to help.
I mean, the business, looking just from commentary that's in the public domain, I mean, the business seems to be gearing up significantly for some growth in 2022. Are you confident that Inigo can meet the challenge that it's setting itself?
Yeah, that literally, sort of no doubts. It's when you see the support from day one coming in from people sort of wanting to work with you and trade with you on a worldwide basis, not just within the London market. It's a great sort of testament to the people that we've brought in. The volumes of business written to date, opportunities that we will know and will come on later in the year, be it at the end of Q4, Q1, Q2, as the teams have all built up over the course of this year, and we're now fully staffed. We know that the opportunities are there, and they're there for the taking. And as I said, they might be on the back of existing relationships before we've even started to go out and target new relationships. So it's the sort of the market disruptor, but with the combination of being well-known market names. So it's there's certainly no concern internally from our side. We've produced what we've said we would. We've gone out in year one, and across every line of business we've done that. All the key metrics that we've put in place, be it from pricing, modelling capabilities, underwriting. We aren't going to be there just to write GWP. We're very much focused on profit and outperforming within our marketplaces. But all indicators are certainly pointing that we're hitting everything we're setting out to achieve. So I personally have no doubt, Graham, that we will do what we say we will.
That's great. Well, and talking about profit, that possibly steers me to another question, perhaps more specifically in your area of expertise, Sandy. So, I mean, the terrorism market for a number of years has been largely profitable. I think most underwriters would accept that. How do you see perhaps that possibly changing, or do you see that possibly changing? And I'm sort of talking really in the context of a post-Afghanistan type situation. I mean, do you see the market changing post-Afghanistan? I mean, other major events that certainly we've been part of, with even the political unrest in South Africa, there's been one or two events which have perhaps realigned people's view of the marketplace. I'd be interested to get your view on sort of the market sort of 12 months ago versus the market today versus the market perhaps say in another 12 months, just to get a sense of where you see that, where it's come from and perhaps where it's going.
I think if you look back almost just a little bit beyond that 12 months and you sort of see, the standalone terrorism market came about after 9/11. People still associated that terrorism event with being a 9/11 type disaster. I think when you look at the last 10 years, we realise that the market's become very politically motivated. It's political violence rather than terrorism, and the major losses to the market from the Arab Spring Rising, the Thai riots, the civil unrest in Hong Kong, right the way through to the events in Chile, Black Lives Matter, and then, very sadly more recently in South Africa, as you know all too well. These are large market losses, most of them in excess of 2 billion. But on the back of what you realise are civil unrest losses rather than terrorism. So the way the market has changed in my eyes is that it's much more the risks to our business are politically motivated now. It's the civil unrest, the almost sort of the insurrection, the coup type risks that are very tightly associated with socioeconomic environments that we're looking at. To bring that back to your question about Afghan, there is obviously a real concern that that is going to go back to being a training spot and a hub for terrorism, back on the sort of the 9/11 type levels we were talking about earlier. And I think that is now the focus, is that you've got the sort of the dual risk of civil unrest and ongoing civil unrest around the world, little bubbles popping up, but you also have the risk of now, larger scale terrorism type events coming back towards the West, Europe, and probably a little bit closer to home, in the UK and out in the US. So I think we've now got a sort of a split dynamic within the marketplace of the sort of the slightly higher frequency events of civil commotion, but also paired with an understanding that there's going to be a bigger concern about what may or may not happen on the back of Afghan. But to your point, the market has remained highly profitable. A lot of the civil unrest losses have still been going back into the property D&F market. And until that sort of the full feeling of those losses are felt by one market in particular, rather than spread across many, it still provides a very profitable go-to marketplace for a number of insurance companies, which is why it's a very popular class of business for new startups, especially, to be in.
I mean, do you see a need in your market and perhaps in others as well to innovate, possibly product or the service delivery in some way, if there is going to be an increase in perhaps terrorist type sort of events, globally? There may be greater pressure on price. How will you guys differentiate yourselves, from others, as opposed to it becoming just a numbers, a rating game?
Well, let's be honest, anyone can come in and knock a couple of points off premium, and that's absolutely what we're not interested in doing. Firstly, Inigo is very much committed to being a data-driven company. We're looking at a number of ways that we can pull data to better enable us to better underwrite. But we are very committed to product expansion, as you touched on. We want to be able to offer something different to clients. We want to be able to offer extensions of cover, enhance the coverage that they've got. And I think that's where the terrorism market has always done very well over the years, is that, when I first started some 19 years ago, not quite 20, but 19, I'll round down, there was always that sort of chat of it's just going to get thrown back into the property market. And it hasn't, because the marketplace has been innovative. And whether that's through, coverage extensions, whether it's through product enhancements, the terrorism market is always sort of first to look at, reviewing wordings and working out what's best for our clients, because there's no point in us trying to sell a product that isn't going to pay out in a loss. And there's certain brokers out there that are very good at that kind of innovation of looking at enhancing wordings. And certainly from an insurer perspective, we want to embrace those challenges and succeed and enable our clients to better sort of maneuver the risks that they're exposed to.
And do you see that innovation being driven from the broker market or from the insurer market, or a combination?
I think it's got to be a combination, but I think the onus is on us to be market leaders. Like anything, we obviously need the buy-in from our brokers as from a distribution source. But I think it's got to be from us to show thought leadership and to get out and market new products, or at least explain to clients what else is out there, rather than something that they may or may not have been offered by a broker. Terrorism has always been a capacity-driven product, as you know. As such, there are always going to be clients that are only interested in having a premium reduction. But I think as we look at the different challenges that face the world, people are wanting to buy more enhanced cover to protect their business and their own DNA. And that's certainly the angle that we'll be looking to come in on, certainly going into next year, in terms of product and thought leadership.
Sure. I mean, just a question that occurs to me as you were speaking around some of the challenges and being a new entrant. I mean, did the COVID pandemic affect your ambitions at all as a business, given the fact that you couldn't necessarily go and face to face with people as one would have traditionally done in the past? You know, Inigo's a business that's kind of morphed itself smack bang in the middle of the largest global pandemic for 100 years. You know, did that bring challenges to the business at all?
Again, call me an optimist, but I think it presented the biggest opportunity that we possibly had, because the transition of working from home, you know, the insurance market adapted incredibly well in terms of the online trading ability, your typical e-commerce. But if you think that we joined as a company, you know, Inigo has launched itself virtually, you know, everybody resigned virtually. You know, we haven't had the ability to go on and knock on doors. And I think when you then look at the fact that the business has been so incredibly successful in its first 9 months of operation, we were almost on a level par. You know, nobody was able to go into Lloyd's. Everybody was accessing the same online trading platforms of PPL. And then it comes down to how well you service your business. And if you're servicing your business better virtually than others, that's how you succeed. It's, you know, it's how do you market yourselves virtually. So the irony of, you know, on paper, you might think, God, what a disastrous time to launch a business. Certainly everyone in this building would say, what a fantastic time, because we've been able to work from home. We've been able to work remotely. Yes, you miss that face to face. I'm a big believer that it's still a people business. And I think that, you know, now that people are coming back to the city, you can see that in terms of you have the catch ups with a broker or a client, and you get the traction, you get that buy-in much quicker than, you know, sending emails, and so much can be lost in tone or in context over email. But again, I think the combination of the experience that we've all brought to the table and previous relationships and how we've traded has meant that we've been very easy to overcome the challenges that you would associate with launching a business virtually. So yeah, ever the optimist, but COVID's only helped us in my eyes.
I mean, and I think it's probably a journey when when the management team within Inigo's all in the same place. You're all taking this kind of this journey together. And I want to ask you a question, because in the context, yesterday was World Mental Health Day, which for MBL is something that we market. So obviously the area that we operate in. In your situation and in others joining the Inigo business, I mean, how much stress was involved in that? I mean, I know we're talking of a fantastic and positive culture, and that culture being sort of delivered to the market, but you know, coming into a new business in a pandemic, that seems stressful to me.
Yes and no. When one of your sort of your big key tags is, or your sort of your corporate line is, let's have some fun in building something amazing, there's just a real sort of maturity in the approach that the business has taken. There's a flexibility, there's an understanding of, yes, we're building a business, but you know what, get on with it the way you see fit. You know, from a corporate standpoint, there's a real embracing of, let's put family life first. You know, one of our colleagues had a baby within probably a couple of weeks of us joining, and you know, the excitement and delight Richard had that it was our first Inigo baby, not his and mine, just to make clear and to tidy that up. But you know, it's that kind of embracing of family. You know, let's put family first. With COVID, you know, there were still challenges. We might still go back into lockdown, and you know, certainly from a female perspective as a mother, you know, the support and the outpour of concern from new colleagues who you've not known for long, again, incredible. So it's building that culture of support, teamwork, transparency, and that's evident across the board. You know, not just from a day-to-day underwriting piece, but in terms of a genuine interest in the individuals and the people element of the business. At the end of the day, the people make the business, as far as I'm concerned, and you have to look after your colleagues and your people, as they're the most important asset you can have.
Absolutely, yeah. So 2022, it sounds like you're excited for 2022. What's that bringing for Sandy and for Inigo, and particularly in the PV and terror space?
Well, corporately at a high level, it's significant growth. Personally, I'd like quite a few more days in the week because there aren't enough days or hours to do the business. But for 2022, hopefully when the world opens up again, it will be travel. It'll be getting back to meeting clients, talking to people, finding out what they need from the marketplace. We need that feedback from our clients in order to allow us to enhance our market leading position. It's that product leadership you and I touched on, and hopefully Inigo will be bringing something to the market in Q1 of 2022. And it just comes back to us being a differentiator. We didn't just want to turn up on day one and say, here we are, we've got a couple of million, a bit more capacity for all the brokers. It's business as usual. Can we just write this risk that we know we've written before? We're not interested in doing that. It's being a market leader. It's demonstrating those leadership skills, be it through product enhancements or thought leadership. It's getting back on the road. It's traveling, presenting, and just working out how we can help, how we can corporately embrace risk and allow us to succeed as a business.
Yeah, that sounds great. So, Sandy, what will we see from Inigo in 2022?
It's a very exciting time. You're hopefully going to be seeing a lot more of us. We're going to remain focused on our core lines. So the business obviously split half insurance, half reinsurance. And then on the insurance side, between the first party, which is the property DNF offering, combined with the PV&T, we're looking to do some very exciting cross-selling opportunities there, but more to come on that. And then within the liability side, the third-party liability side, we've got an outstanding D&O, general liability and marine liability team, again, with all the names that you'd know of and have heard of. And we're just looking to get bigger and better, but with the undertone of having fun along the way, being a completely transparent business, and just looking to build something exciting, unique, and to grow on the support we've had to date, which has been unprecedented. And we couldn't be more grateful for that outpouring of support on a global basis, especially from our broking community. So watch the space, lots more to come. But yeah, we're very excited about what 2022 brings for us.
That's great, Sandy. Inigo sounds like a good place to be, and we wish you all the best for 2022. Sandy Warne, Head of Political Violence and Terrorism at Inigo Insurance, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Graham. It's been great to talk to you as always.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Please get in touch with us if you'd like to know more about the services we provide, or leave a review if you have any questions or feedback. See you next time.